Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and this is what I wish they taught me about econometrics and introduction. In the previous video, we said that regression holds x2 constant by removing its influence from both x1 and y. So now let's see exactly what that looks like step by step and by doing a visualization. So the problem is that we've got x2, let's say ability, and x1 education, y income, but x2 contaminates x1 and contaminates as well the y. Okay, so which means that if we actually try to look at the true effect in here, let's say the beta 1, it's going to be contaminated. Okay, because x2 in a sense is flowing into both x1 and y, so we cannot cleanly read off beta 1 in this case. So then what are the steps to make sure that we can look at that true effect without the contamination that it's coming from x2 ability? The first step was to clean x1. So what does that really mean? We have x2 ability in here. We would need to run a regression of x1 on x2, okay? And out of this regression, we're going to save the residuals, okay? And keep in mind, the residuals in here, they would have been, let's say, some u hat, but I'm calling it here the residual from x1 as like x1 prime. So that these are going to be equivalent in this case, which would have been basically whatever the true value of x1 was minus the fitted value of x1 out of the regression that you would have taken here. Okay, so we save the residuals and we get the x1 prime here residuals, which is literally education conditional on ability. So this residual is the part of education that ability cannot explain. Okay, so that is independent variation of ability. The next step would be to clean the y variable. In this particular case, we've got x2, and we would need to run a regression of y on x2. And again, from here, we're going to take the residuals. And if the residuals here would have been some e hat, now I'm using equivalently y prime here to mean the residuals, which would have been whatever true values you would have had for y minus the fitted values that would have come out of this regression. Okay? So in this particular case, when you are regressing y income on ability and saving these residuals are the part of income that ability cannot explain. All right, so again, here we're taking out that contamination that x2 had on both x1 and y. So by doing step 1 and step 2, what we're technically doing is we're getting rid of these two arrows that created the problem to begin with. So let's move to the last step, which is regress the residuals. In this final last step, both variables are now clean, right? So ability has been removed from both. And the slope from this regression is exactly the beta 1 that should be not contaminated. And this should give you that like regression anatomy, okay? So in this particular bit, if we regress the residual coming from y on x1, the pure effect here of education would then be achieved. Okay? What you're doing in here is you are literally residualizing both variables first, and then the slope from this regression is what OLS would have been giving you based on that holding x2 constant concept. Okay? I hope that this visual representation was clear following the steps that we learned in the previous video. We'll see a little bit more of regression anatomy in the next couple of videos, so please stay tuned and I'll see you then.